Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Sasheen, and I'm back to talk to you about the energy vampires who are trying their level best to suck the joy out of your holidays and your 2025. So let's get into it. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Sasheen. I run this channel, the Women in Transition, Gen X Women in Transition podcast. And I talk to Gen X women about all things Gen X womanhood, including the shit show that is unfolding around us in some very unfortunate ways. But this video is about relationships because Gen X women, we struggle anyway sometimes with the pressures of relationships. And right now, the struggle is even larger. And let me tell you why. There are a number of people who are talking about this in the spheres of social media and in my real world about how folks who got what they wanted are really concerned that people who are choosing to protect their peace and not engage in certain relationships anymore are choosing not to engage in certain relationships anymore. And I'm going to tell you right now, these are energy vampires who have lived most of your relationship life with you, being able to suck the lifeblood out of you. You've brought them purpose, you've given them things to do, you've kept them entertained, whatever the case may be. You have been a pivotal and central part of their identity. And so now that they may be losing you because of their own actions or activities and probably should have lost you a long time ago, but that's beside the point. But now that they really are facing the reality that you may be walking away, I'm sure you are sensing or getting some pushback from quarters that are like, you really aren't going to try and end relationships. Like, what do you mean we're not going to talk anymore? What do you mean I can't do the things that I was going to do for you? What do you mean you're not going to do the things that you said you were going to do for me? And what I want to talk to you about today is why you, and I have notes as I always do because I like to keep notes for things, why they won't leave you alone. Okay. And this video is going to be short and sweet because I feel like there's a lot of chatter in the system. And what I want to do is bring your central nervous system down and let you know you're not crazy. You're not, because I have a feeling that a lot of you are getting people talking to you in your ear like, I don't understand how come you can't just put pride to the side, and I don't understand why it's such a big deal anymore, because things haven't changed significantly in the world right now. There's a lot of chatter, but there's not a lot of changes. And so you might be feeling like, why can't they just leave me be? Like, I am processing this new chapter of life. I'm already a Gen X woman. I've already got chapters of life going on, right? I'm already living the third quarter, and I'm looking down at the fourth quarter, depending on where I'm in my journey. And I'm already doing a lot of changes and shifting just by virtue of being the woman that I am in the time frame of my life that I am. And then I have this other thing that I'm also contending with happening in the world, and I need to make some decisions to protect my peace. And here come these people who are like, but wait, if protecting your peace means that you're not going to talk to me anymore, then that's not really peaceful. How can you do that to me? And what I want to say to you is, you're not crazy. I did a short video about gaslighting a couple of days ago. And if you haven't seen it, I recommend that you go back and watch it, because a lot of what you're feeling, the pressure to just bend a little, is coming from people who desperately need you. They desperately need you. And the reason that they need you is because so much of their identity is built on the interactions with you. Okay. So much of who they see themselves as depends on you playing a particular role in their life. So the reason they can't leave you alone or just won't leave you alone is because without the interaction, without the ebb and flow, without the push pull, they don't have anything else going for them. This is not uncommon because we've all been in the kind of relationships where we're like, I don't get it. You don't appear to like me, and yet you won't leave me alone. You don't appear to want to be around me or want to be with me. Sorry, this thing just keeps pulling down. And yet you won't leave me alone. This is no different. And in fact, this video is about all the relationship vampires in your life, not just the one that cropped up after the election, but the ones that have been there for a while now. The ones that have been there leeching off of you and whom you've never really figured out how to let go of them, because just like a leech, it's little bits. It's little bits over years. It's little bits of energy here and there that just kind of keep them going. But it's always been enough to drain you. It's always been enough to make you a little tired after interacting with them. It's always been enough for have you go, I just kind of want to hibernate. Every time I go visit X or every time I hang out with Y, I just need a few days to decompress. And that's because those people are sucking you dry. They're sucking you dry in the workplace, at the happy hour, at family gatherings, at friendly gatherings. They're sucking you dry. And the reason that they cannot leave you alone is because you are their energy source. So I talked to you about how to stop being the energy source that's getting sucked dry by people, especially going into 2025, especially going into to the world that's going to start to unfold and is already in some ways unfolding around you. So, number one, why can't they leave you alone? Because they need you. That's my first main point here, is that they require fuel and you have been their battery. You have been their battery because even if you have kept the peace and tried to see everybody's side and tried to keep the lines of communication open, they needed you to do that so that they didn't have to. Right? So they didn't have to keep the peace. They could be snarky and bullying and gaslighty because you were always going to keep the peace and keep the lines of communication open. You were never not going to answer the phone. You're never not going to show up to the thing, even if you don't feel like you were really invited and it was kind of a backhanded invitation. You were never not going to be there. You were not going to cut them off. And so because of that, they never had to take responsibility for providing their own spark into the conversation or into your life. They always knew that you were going to make a space for them. So they're running around like chicken littles right now going, wait. You mean you're not going to keep the lines of communication open? You mean you're not going to let me call and gaslight you? You mean you're not going to make the peace with the other people over there who are now mad at me? But you always smooth things over. So who's going to smooth things over? Who's going to be the bigger person if you're not it? So they're running around like chicken little. The sky is falling in on their heads because you have been their spark. You have been the battery, the bridge, the center point, the spoke in the wheel. The second reason they won't leave you alone is because they don't have life outside of the drama that they create. And when you are pulling the battery out and saying, I'm no longer going to help fuel your drama, what are they going to do? What is the, what are they going to do? You mean you're not going to friendly debate me anymore? You mean we're not going to have philosophical conversations that are not really philosophical conversations? It's basically you trying to be a rational and coherent and intellectual human being to someone who is spouting nonsense and gibberish at you. But because we are taught to respect people's opinions, you gave them the table to blah, 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 blah. And now when you're saying is, I don't want to hear your blah, 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 blah no more, they're like, but wait, who am I going to talk to? And that's a key piece of this chicken little syndrome that you see happening. Who are they going to talk to? And you might say, well, they're going to talk to each other, but they're not. There is nothing to be gained for them talking to people who think like they do. Because unlike other kinds of conversations or other kinds of relationships where intellectual stimulation is one of the reasons why we're in it, a lot of the people who thrive on the kind of chaos that we're seeing happen, and whose life has been predicated on people feeding the chaos so they can continue to flap their gums. When people stop feeding their chaos, they don't want to talk to each other. They don't really want the chaos. They have zero interest in the chaos. They just want to be a contrarian, and they want to be loved for their contrarianness and accepted in their contrarianness. And the problem is that when they have to start talking to each other, then it becomes a pissing contest because they're going to try and figure out who's the better degenerate person, who's the best of the deplorable bunch. Nobody wants to have the race to the bottom conversation with people. What they want to have is a conversation where they can walk away feeling superior and as though they've at least defended their position with people who don't think like them but still love them. And by you pulling back, by you taking the battery away from them and saying, I'm no longer going to fuel your delusions or your psychoses, they don't have anybody to talk to. And so there is this, what the terminology today is, what there's this crash out happening around you. And that's what you're sensing. That's what you're feeling, is that people are going, well, what do you mean you're not engaging? What do you mean you don't want to have a friendly debate about about what's happening? You don't want to chit chat about the future? No, ma'am, no, sir. I don't have any conversations for you. And because you're saying that or beginning to feel that, maybe you're not saying it yet, maybe you're going to get there, but because you're feeling it and beginning to put out the invisible barrier that's starting to gently push these people away from you, they're starting to react with the gaslighting. They're going to start to react with the, well, let me just call you one more time. And maybe you didn't really mean it. So let me see if I can bait you into a conversation. Maybe I can bait you into, oh, come on. You know, you're going to come to Thanksgiving because after all, what if grandma and grandpa die next week? Then you're going to feel bad. Let me see if I can guilt you or do something to get you to be the battery that I need to continue to suck dry so that I feel good about myself. So here's what I want you to do. You've got to start guarding yourself more forcefully because the no is no longer optional. The no is no longer a, well, I could say yes this time. No. The no is no longer optional because if you think they're bad now when they still have access, at least peripherally to you, if you think they're bad now, if you're like, gosh, dang it, why do you keep calling me to talk about this when I have told you I don't want to talk about this? If you think that's bad today, the week before Thanksgiving, imagine what it's going to be like in January as the inaugurations are rolling. Imagine what it's going to be like in May or July when they really need to talk to you because the echo chamber that is their life is silent, except for people who talk and think exactly the way that they do. And they don't want to talk to those people. It's why they hound you at the water cooler and follow you around work, always constantly in your business, because you give them purpose. And because you give them purpose, when you snatch your purpose away, what's their point? They showed up to work every day just to engage in a conversation with people that they know they don't agree with, but it gave them a purpose. And when those same people are now saying, look, I don't want to talk to you about anything that doesn't have to do with whether or not we can get these widgets produced, who are they? And that's my third point that I want to make. What's going to come down the turnpike in a very unfortunate and ugly way is an identity crisis for a lot of folks who have been in your life, who have believed that no matter what they ever did or said to you, you would always give them a purpose and a reason for being in your world, and that you would always build the table to seat them to. And the reality is that if you choose to say no, that I'm not building a new table with a space for you, but you can build your own table over there, then the identity crisis is inevitable. And a lot of folks who are running around like Chicken Little right now, afraid, are going to get pissed. They're going to get mad and they're going to start poking even harder at the bear. That's where you have to start putting guardrails in your life. Okay. That's where you have to start putting serious guardrails in your life. If you've had the same phone number for the past 40 years, it might be time to change it. If you've had the same email address, you might want to just dump the spam email and let it go and use a different one. If you have never liberally blocked people who have raised your cortisol levels all the frickin' time because they call you with drama, it might be a really good time to relabel them in your phone so that you know exactly who it is calling and what kind of energy they're bringing. In fact, in my phone are a few energy vampires I cannot delete or block. But when their number pops up, it tells me exactly, it reminds me of what this person truly is like. And if I have to answer the phone, I treat them accordingly. They get very little of my time and they get none of my emotional labor. None of it. Because I have petulant that has to call me. I don't deal with petulant. Petulant requires me to be angry and to feed the petulance because of the guilt that they want me to feel for the actions that I had to take. So they choose to be petulant because they know I can't not deal with them. I can't not. I have to. And yet when that pops up on my text message or whatever, and I know that that's what I'm about to deal with, I know to shut it down. And I give them nothing and nothing to respond to and nothing to hang on to. And I'm very clear that I have no guilt and I'm very happy in my world. And I'm so sorry that you're upset, but I have nothing to give you. So, how are you going to pull the battery out and let the Energizer Bunny die? How are you going to burn the bridge and not allow it to be rebuilt on your back? How are you going to say, your crash out is no longer my problem? My table that I am building is not big enough anymore. I don't have a seat for you at this table. I'm sorry. And then just don't build a table big enough to accommodate their energy anymore. You've got to guard your life against the energy vampires. That is the only way they are going to leave you alone. If you haven't yet, please click like and subscribe and share the video out as we build this community of women who are determined to make the next 4 years the best 4 years, because we are Gen X and we know how to do that. But as I was saying, you are going to build a table that doesn't require you to have a seat for your enemy, because that is not working anymore. And you are no longer going to be the energy source. You don't get to be the buffet on your own table that other people are eating. Okay? You don't get to be the sampler that everyone gets to sample to make sure they're fed, and then you're left with nothing. No more. We're not going to do that anymore. So again, when you're asking yourself, I don't understand why these folks just won't leave me alone. They got what they wanted. Or I don't understand. And again, this is not just about the election relationships. You know, we can apply this to a lot of relationships in our lives where you're like, I don't get, since you obviously don't like me, why you don't just leave me alone? Or you hold me in such low regard, why you don't just leave me alone? It is because you are their energetic battery. They pull on your energy for their livelihood. They need you to give them a sense of purpose, because without you, they don't really know what they're doing or who they are. And they need access to you, because if they don't have access to you, then they're stuck talking to people just like them. And that is the last thing that they want to do. They do not want an echo chamber, because in the echo chamber, they become the meal, and they don't like that. I hope that this found you in a way today to give you some good energy, to give you a clear, just support that you're not crazy. Yes, it is happening. Yes, people are going a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs right now. Yes, it is because that they're losing access to people like you, to good people who have just said, I've had enough. And I hope that you hear in this a way forward. I hope that you hear in this a way to always protect your peace. And that is to no longer be the Energizer Bunny, to no longer provide access to your life so that people don't have to listen to their own selves, and to no longer build up a table that allows your enemy to sit across from it because you feel like you have to, because you don't. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please leave me a comment. Let me know that you're out there, and I'll see you again in the next one. Bye.